Novato, California, Marin County, the gorgeous Marin County. Is a beautiful day out here. We are on the porch of Shel Israel's house, and Shel is a writer, and he speaks about technology's impact on work and on life, and he's been a speaker on all continents. Not covered by ice. Maybe someday we'll get him up to Antarctica as well.
By then there won't be any ice
By
there.
then there won't be any ice there. I'm not sure he likes the cold weather. It's absolutely gorgeous out here in Novato today. He's written 6 books, but his latest 3 just go in sequence. And the first of the 3 that we're going to talk about today, Naked Conversations. The other one is Age of Context, and they were written with tech evangelist Robert Scoble. We know who he is as well. And they were critically acclaimed bestsellers. Now, Naked Conversation was the first book to successfully argue that business should adopt social media. And if you're not on social media today, you better get on social media. I think you're a little late to the party then. Well, you're never too late. Start today if you're not. The other book, Age of Context, demonstrated how social media was converging with mobile sensors, location, and data technologies to foment a storm of change and technology's role. And now he has a brand new book, which we're going to get into a little bit more detail today and hopefully inspire you to buy it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's called Lethal Generosity, and it's the 3rd in the series. And here he examines a new convergence between contextual technologies and the emergent millennials, the first generation of digital natives. So first of all, I want to welcome Shel Israel, and thank you so much for inviting us to your house. We're trying to get a good picture of you here. I might have to move because there you are. I'm going to go to the other side and sit in the sunlight.
And now I can be blinded by the light.
And now you can be blinded. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem.
We have quite a few people that are joining in here. And we want to first know what inspired you to write your book, Lethal Generosity, the 3rd in your sequence?
Well, the last book written with Robert was tech-focused, and we kept promising how great it was going to be in retail. And then we finished the book, it went out, it did very, very well, but it was a little bit of vision-based prediction. And all of a sudden, beacons hit the stores, and then location technologies, and then resolutions to privacy and data started happening. And so in a very short period of time, a story about what not just retail, but all businesses like airports, stadiums, concert halls, where people and the enterprise intersect, were changing. And a great deal has changed in just a couple of years, so that inspired the new book.
And
I didn't need Robert because this book is less technical than the last 2. Sorry, Robert.
Sorry, Robert. I'm sure. Well, didn't he write a foreword in here?
He wrote the foreword, and he's been a huge help in all of this. He ended up being the most mentioned person in the book as well. So
fantastic. And so you talk in the book about a power shift, moving from brands to buyers. How so?
Technology allows people to tell each other what they think of companies, and that influence is much more powerful than what brands can tell you. Marketing historically has been about a company telling you what you want.
Right.
And now we have the power to tell them what they want, and they can either comply with our desires or not. They can tell us how great they are, or their last customer can tell us how terrible they are. Who are we going to believe? We're going to believe each other.
And so where is the balance between the two? Because obviously companies still have to market.
I'm prescriptive in that I argue that companies that wish to survive need to adopt the new ways. I find that the companies that use these technologies to understand what people like, what people trust, what people want, and use these technologies to give them superb experiences will end up building loyalty, retaining customers, lowering their marketing costs, increasing their profits. And any company that doesn't want that, I only have one word to say, and that's bye.
So how do they adjust? What are some tips?
Well, for one thing, hug the millennials. Millennials are the majority of the global marketplace now. They're the employees, the customers, and the competitors. And they do things differently. They do things differently because they're digital natives. For those of us who are of advanced years, um, using technology is still an acquired taste. We do it with kind of a foreign accent. Digital natives are just naturally attached to this. And companies that still have the silos um, lose the advantages of companies that are starting to make the whole process from site to store to site a seamless experience.
And so, in terms of the millennials, what are the technologies? What are the outlets that they are using right now that you would suggest that companies do pay attention
The
to?
biggest change has been beacons or location technologies. We have 411 who's partnered with Esri, for example, and Esri is the one that has the satellites going over our heads,
Okay.
watching us, reporting to the banks when our lawns turn brown and it's not a drought area like this is. And that tells the bank that you may not be a good credit risk because you're letting your lawn go brown. Now they're telling Home Depot when you pull up and you're a loyal customer, that's an important part because you've opted into this. When you get out of the car, the Esri satellite reports to the store that you're there. The store pulls up your data, discovers you're building a deck. As you walk in, aisle 411 gives you a map to where you're heading, and it's noticed from your data that you're building a deck, and on the way, it offers you a text special on stain or bolts or some other accessory you need. When you arrive at the lumber department, the people there have the data, so they know you're up to building benches and rails. And they have the wood all picked out for you. This is an entirely different experience. Then, of course, holding one of those devices, we're all going to be making contactless payment through Apple Pay, Google Wallet, or any of the others that are coming out so quickly.
Have you faced any resistance in approaching companies when talking about this book and your findings?
The resistance is from people that are worried about privacy. It's on the customer side. And the solution is to let customers decide whether they will opt into this or not. There will still be cash registers, probably when you are my age, there will still be cash registers. But there will be dusty little things with cobwebs in the corner, and everybody will be walking out of stores the way they walk out of an Uber car or a Lyft car.
Well, it's just you go to Nespresso in San Francisco, and you don't have someone checking you out, and in fact, you don't have to take anything out of the bag. It automatically, their system just scans everything in your
Everything
bag.
that can possibly be automatic will be there. There's going to be smart shopping carts that understand when you put an object in with it and rings it up. You say, "No, I don't want you to take it out," and it takes it off. People are going to be able to just walk out of everywhere. And of course, if you just walk out, there will be alarms, there will be pictures, there will be your history there, and you'll be busted.
Shoplifting will probably end up going away. There'll be no chance of getting out of
We're
there.
entering a bad era to be a shoplifter.
That's my quote of the day, actually. I'm going to use
Right.
that.
I thought you were going to tell people to buy my book.
That too. That'll be quote two.
Okay.
So Dustin Mitchell has a question. Where do you think is the best place to market to millennials? Is it Snapchat right now?
I would never name one specific place, and I don't know which particular of the 50 million or more millennials just in this country, not to mention the world, which is the one. I think the word that I would take issue with there is to, because marketing isn't about getting messages out, it's about conversations. And it's like Facebook, which may not be the prime place for millennials, but there are millions there. They're telling you all day long what they like. They use really important words like love and socks. And that way, a marketer can understand what customers feel by just listening to public record of what customers are saying about your products, your marketplace, your competitors, and you. And that is so much more important than telling them what they should want, or intruding in the conversation, or putting up a like page and counting all the likes without knowing who the people are. There's a company called Vintank. It was recently bought by W2O, a PR firm. Vintank simply listens to social media and finds out um, what people like. So if somebody likes wine and they're going to Napa, then as you ride by a particular winery, they have a geofence and they can invite you in for a special offer. W2O bought them so they can make the same kind of offers in any kind of store, in any kind of retail operation. It can actually be used to help ticket scalpers outside of a Niners game. So the answer is don't market to, market with. Don't talk to, listen to.
And we're already seeing some of these technologies come about. You know, for example, in Waze, you drive by, there's a McDonald's that's, half mile away, and
Yep.
it asks you, it pops up a deal on there, and it says, hey, do you want to go half a mile out of your way? It's only going to take you, 5 extra minutes. Do you have time?
This is this is how everything is going to work. There is a new technology coming in called LTE Direct, which reverses this though. And you and I can say, hey, we're hungry. Here we are in Nevada, California, and we're in the mood for seafood lunch. And we post this up on what'll be a Facebook app, a Yahoo app, and about 5 other places. And stores around us or restaurants around us can start offering us special deals on seafood. We can say no sushi, and those will be filtered out. We can say we're in the mood for salmon, and those will be given a top priority. So these technologies are a democratizer in many, many ways because we can tell people what we want when we want it, and then they can bid for our business.
And some people would argue because there's Yelp, because there are all kinds of different, location-based apps that allow you to find food and such. But when I was in Denver, I had 3 of them that were sitting there on my phone. I went to all 3 of them, and I still instantly could not get a great restaurant that I really wanted to. And I ended up with 2 of the worst places I think I could have ever gone to. And there was a great one just a block away that didn't pop up.
I'm not sure about Yelp enough to make a videotape statement, but their practices are highly questionable, and the results that most people I know get with Yelp, I no longer use it, are highly questionable. My big test was when I moved here and I started looking for restaurants, and it was really, they picked not the worst, but mediocre restaurants, and not one of my 10 favorites in the area was Yelp mentioned. However, I got a great mechanic for my used Japanese car who is a specialist in used Japanese cars. And he told me that he does a monthly ad with Yelp, and that assures that he gets good. So I got lucky, and he's a great mechanic, and I'm not going to name him, but the truth of the matter is he's probably paying for the preferential placements he has.
So in terms of picking up your book, what are the 3 takeaways that you want people to walk away with?
Well, first, I'd like to define lethal generosity. It's the premise that if you treat your customers exquisitely, that will just absolutely screw the competition. Secondly, is that if you look at yesterday's best practices, you will never be able to find better practices, and you will be caught following yesterday's thought leader. 3 is instead of spending all that money on marketing that, as you already know, is tapering off in its return to you, that you should invest more time and more people on listening to what your customers are saying in social media, in installing location technologies, in Uberizing what you can. By that, I mean using technology to enhance experience.
We have a question. I just want to
I don't know if that was 3 anyway.
It was 3.
Okay.
Kathy Casterland, let me see if I can read this.
Hi, Kathy.
You mentioned customer control regarding privacy. There was an interesting case in Europe last week on this issue and the difference between Europeans and the U.S. regarding privacy, yet we are a global world. What are your thoughts?
You hit a fine and nuanced issue, Kathy, because in Europe, most of the people, customers, trust their government to protect them against companies, and in America we tend to trust our companies more than we do our government. And that includes privacy in particular, by the way. So companies that are thinking globally are going to have to deal companies that have physical practices globally are going to have to look at different trust issues in adopting this technology. Uh, Years ago, Google was the first one to discover that you don't go into China saying, hey, we're Google, because you won't be in China much longer. And if you are, you'll not succeed. So it is really important for companies like Uber, Google, or anybody else, or Facebook, to understand what the nuances, the law, and trust levels are of the people there,
Hmm.
and give them what they want, or they will find it elsewhere.
Fantastic. And if you have any more questions, just go ahead and punch them in there, because I'm just going to have a few more questions left for you to have an opportunity to get yours in as well. I want to go back to the title of your book and really what this means. I want you to expand on it a little bit more and give us an example of someone who's doing it right and someone who's doing it wrong.
It's a little company called Topingo. I'll give you a startup and then I'll give you a big company.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, Topingo started on campus. It understands pattern recognition. It discovered that students have an extremely redundant behavior pattern through the year, through the semester at least. So, about 10 minutes before the end of a class that ends at 10 a.m., they're starting to think about that bagel and coffee they want. They will go to the same place to get that bagel and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And what Topingo has done is Uberize that process. And by that it means that 10 minutes before the bell rings, they get a little text message saying, you want your usual at your usual place, and you hit yes.
I love that.
And then they go in, they pass this long line of students queued up saying, did you say low-fat latte or did you say high-fat latte? And they just go over, pick up their order, and walk out without paying. So what had happened is they started this 4 years ago. They've got hundreds of thousands of students on 46 North American campuses. But some of those students are now graduating, and now they're picking up customers in healthcare place where people have redundant patterns where they eat at the same time. Very often they have the same food. They're going into campuses in Silicon Valley, such as, I can't name them yet, but large branded technology campuses where recent graduates have been bringing them in, evangelizing them. It's growing the same way Vintank is growing. So that's an example of a little company that is Uberizing everything and bringing that type of behavior elsewhere. On the large side, I'm going down to speak to Telstra, the largest phone company in Australia. They're located in the central business district right across the street from the Apple store. Apple, of course, is legendary for the best retail experience. Telstra is using this technology in remarkable ways. I was just writing about them. In that, when you go to the website the night before, you get asked if you want Telstra to retain what you looked at. So if you go into the store the next day, when you're greeted, the data comes up that says you're looking for a new phone, and these are the products that you looked on online, and they bring out those 3 products for you to look at. If you want to compare them, you go to an optical scanning glass top table that lets you lay down the 3 phones and look at the data of what each of these have, lets you compare the contracts. And then if you can't decide, you take home a little NFC card with you, and you can review this in your own computer at home. You can go online and buy it, or you can say, yeah, I want it, and go back to the store the next day and pick it up.
Don't you wish you could do that with the presidential vote?
Oh, God, don't get me started on politics. I can't do sound bites on that, other than to say, ugh. The other thing that's interesting there is across the street from where the Telstra store is the Apple store, which used to be the coolest place around. They compete. They both sell phones.
Wow.
So what I've just learned since the book came out a month ago is that Apple is about to modernize all its stores using contextual technologies. They're starting with, this is the good news, the Corte Madera store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's going to be their flagship. They'd rather start in this area than in New York City, where they have bigger real estate. And they'd rather start out in Corte Madera than San Francisco because it's
or even
more
Palo
affordable.
Alto.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We're actually lucky to be here in Marin for a
Yeah,
first,
for
right?
once.
For
But
once.
but here's what I like, because I write books for business decision makers, but I do it, you might be able to tell, as an end user champion. I'm on the side of the customers. So when Apple looks at the Telstra store and says we're going to have to do better than that because they're pulling traffic away from us, I'm waiting for Apple to come back. And when Apple comes back and takes the lead, I'm waiting for Telstra to come back. And how do they know who's winning? They have their own data, their store data, their sales data, but they're also going to know what's being said about them through social media. So it all ties together, these five forces.
Okay, let's see. I think we have a couple more questions here. Oh, someone just said, Neil just said he loved the Topingo at SCU.
I have yet to speak to anyone who used Topingo who did not love it. I have not heard a single unhappiness case.
Kathy has another, but she just wants to know more about treating a customer exquisitely and what are some great examples. I think you just gave a couple of great examples.
Yeah, did she ask a question before I just answered that, or?
Probably as you were answering that.
Hey Kathy, I got a great deal on a Kindle book that tells you everything I did. Only $4.99 between now and October 15th, which is coming up fast.
Is it called
Lethal Generosity?
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is Shel Israel, and this will be available at edcast.com/10-minute insights. And of course, you can pick up his book, Lethal Generosity.